welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name is Michael Willer, and I'm a chubby chaser, and today everything is going to be a piece of cake, because that is what's written on Trevor's giant tumbler. Yes. A piece of cake in bright colored letters, and it's very positive.
Hey there, my name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am a disappointing donut boy.
Oh,
because
no.
My donut was very disappointing and will sit next to me uneaten through this entire podcast.
Why? Why?
It's just not good. It's like mushy and textureless, and the flavor's flat.
His donut does not thrill.
Boo.
It doesn't spark joy.
No joy sparked. Hi, I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And today I am a fucking sick of this humidity, boy. We have had uncharacteristic humidity in Los Angeles, not for a day or two or a week, which, that happens, but this has been months. Months.
Boo.
It is like living in Houston or Miami. It is so humid.
Those horrible places.
Those horrible places, but without the Cuban food.
I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and today I'm a piece of cake boy. I got my big ice water. We're all in the same room together.
Yay!
I love just the immediate difference in Michael's voice in his intro.
What's the difference?
Well, just like you're just
Joy.
full of pep. You're excited. And I can feel it because we're in the same room.
I have to muster myself less when I'm in person.
Much less mustard.
Much less mustard. Hi, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome back to episode 234.
Well, that didn't last long.
Holy shit, that's a lot of episodes. But we're glad you're back, and we're happy to have you. We've got a really good one today. Before we dive in, we're going to do a little housekeeping. We want to say thank you to the patrons who support us on Patreon, help pay our editor to do the editing of the show and do a great job at it. You can support us there. Any amount. I don't think we talk about it that much, but I think it's like $5.
Yeah.
And then if you want to give more, that's great. If not, you can get all access to mini-sodes that we've recorded over the years, little, one-on-one specialized subjects, niche subjects, things that we are interested in that are sort of adjacent to the world of fat.
I think there's some oldies in there that I was thinking about recently when Michael and I made sandwiches.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have too.
Yeah.
I want to do that again.
And the holiday appetizer one.
That was really fun. Yeah, we both came up with a different plate of appetizers that you would sort of do. I guess you could do like girl dinner, or you could serve them at your holiday party. That was a lot of fun. Don and I have talked about video games. Dan and I have done chaser chats left and right.
Oh, yes.
All kinds of good stuff. We also do behind the scenes for a lot of the episodes we do. We'll have little offbeat subjects and things. Today, we're going to do a tasting of peanut butter whiskey as behind the scenes.
Yes, it should not be called whiskey.
Or sorry, peanut butter liqueur.
No, they call it.
They
people
call it whiskey.
The people who make the awful thing, they call it peanut butter whiskey.
Anyway, so we have behind the scenes like that. We also do cutting room floor, like probably most of what we just talked about. David, leave this part in, because then people will know that something got cut from the episode. We also love our affiliates, our lovely affiliates at Bearskin, for instance, who have lovely underwear and swimsuits and all kinds of sexy garments for big and small people alike. You can get 15% off your order if you use our promo code BigFatGayPod. It gives us a kickback. It saves you some money. Everybody wins. We also have an affiliate link on our website that will take you to Big Fig Mattresses, where any purchase you make gives us a kickback. And of course, you get your phenomenal mattress made for fat people and supporting comparatively small business in the world of mattresses, which is always a good thing. You also have access to our Discord and our newsletter for free.
Yay!
You can do either or both. The newsletter is great if you just want sort of a once bi-monthly update on the things that are relevant to the podcast that you may have missed. Warnings ahead of time, for instance, to watch the Body Electric documentary that is relevant to today's episode. And the Discord is a place where you can hang out, chat. We have all different discussion topics. Doesn't have to be about fatness. It can be sort of anything in the community of the world of fatness, and that is also a really great place to be. We have regular Jackbox nights where we hang out. We've done movie streamings before, little get-togethers. It's a good spot.
We have someone who's going to DM a one-shot.
Oh, yeah, if you like role-playing games. Yeah. I also want to run Draw Steel at some point, but I have to learn it first. Anyway.
The penguins are looking up
the penguins are like they're impatiently tapping their fins on the ground. Wow. We can be in sync this time.
Oh, my goodness. So this is an article in the New Indian Express. And the article is about how young doctors are in a bid to redefine the rotund image of one of the, I guess, religious symbols, Maveli, aka Mahabali. So Maveli is a former ruler who was apparently very benevolent and went on to conquer the three realms of heaven and earth and the underworld, and was struck down because the gods got a little too envious and sent him to the underworld to live. But he comes back every year in a festival named Onam. So this is an annual festival, which is feasting and costumes and just lovely. Well, the thing is, the doctors have decided that they need to redefine Maveli's image because he is this opulent, fat, mustached, light-skinned, I guess. A god is too much.
Something that's been a traditional symbol of wealth, opulence, prosperity for generations.
For generations. And they dispute this. They say it hasn't been, like, this isn't traditional. It's merely been since the 80s. And there are other controversies with it. If you think about Santa, it has the same sort of controversies.
Yeah,
why is he
where
fat?
I went to.
Why is he fat? Why is he white? Why is he this, that?
I want to see, it's so strange to me that, like, yeah, this came from the 80s, which I also would love to see, like, context for that. And it just seems like a weird thing of, like, oh, the go-go opulent 80s.
Well, wait till we get to the film that we're going to talk about later. I will inform you all about the 80s.
The wild thing to me, like, so one of the quotes from Dr. Shamnad is, this is insane to me. Maybe it's the case there. I don't know. Obesity has become normalized in society while fitness and healthy body weight are viewed as exceptions. This narrative must change. I'm like, are we living in the same world? Like, this is such a foreign concept to me.
I've seen no indication that that's the case in India either.
So I do get a lot of news from India in the kind of fat news aggregator that it's similar. And there's stuff talking about, like, body positivity, but I think it's very much kind of still the same, where it's not, like, great.
You're not going to walk around as a fat person in India and be respected and appreciated the same way that this figure is. Like, it's not, because they make it sound like because this guy is fat and is, revered, that it's like enabling everyone in society to be fat also. And, like, that can't be it, right?
Well, and
that can't be it.
I'm also curious how many other, so, like, it's the Santa Claus thing again.
It's the Santa Claus thing.
How many other positive fat mythological role models do you have? You're literally saying the one mythological creature I have that I can see myself physically resembled in is unworthy because of the way it resembles me.
Oh, it's a little worse than that, Doug.
Yeah.
Their argument is this is a powerful, conquering hero who was benevolent. Obviously, he wasn't fat.
That was so freaking offensive.
It diminishes him.
Yeah.
So to Michael's point, so these are a group of young doctors that are kind of making this push.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that there are doctors that are like, well, Maveli, like, it's okay. You don't have to lose any weight.
What patient is going in there and says, well, let me point you to my pantheon and show you why I don't have to lose weight.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, so in our culture, our familiarity with Santa Claus is such that we know it's ludicrous to say Santa should be thin because he's, encouraging people to be fat. We know how dumb that sounds. Is that directly comparable to this cultural significance as well? Like, it feels similar to me. I guess what I want to know is, like, are there Indian people who say, well, not just it's okay for me to be fat because, but also, like, I want to get fatter because he's fat. Like, that's what they're saying, right? That people are just...
that it's a role model.
Yeah, that they're embracing being fat as opposed to being thin and fit.
Right. The region this is taking place in is called Kerala, which is in the southwest corner of India. And so they have this slogan, this statewide slogan for Kerala, which is, a fit Maveli is a fit Kerala.
It's so weird. It really does feel like all the Santa stuff, like when the occasional Santa discourse that pops up that we share, and it's so weird. I was so excited to see this because it is such a weird thing. And
it also, to me, the thing, I hate to harp on it, but it keeps implying that any positive role model can be rendered negative by being fat.
Yes, 100%.
That's all. Yeah.
And also, the acceptance of someone fat is the same as supporting obesity. Okay, you're not tearing it down. You're
To
building
support
it
a
up.
fat person is to endorse obesity.
Is to endorse it. Like,
Yeah. The leaps in logic here. And presumably they have something to gain from this. Like they're not just, I would assume they have something like some kind of call to action that supports them.
Well,
and it's not just a benevolent or what they think is.
It's a program rollout to try and motivate the city. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of money going into the city to try and.
But not to the doctors.
It's in the new Indian Express News.
Yeah.
It is, I think, the perfect thing to like get people worked up kind of and be like, yeah, actually he shouldn't be fat if he's this warrior king. Like
There's also something else going on here, which is a whitewashing, right? The region of India where this is, the inhabitants are much darker skinned than the Brahmin caste of northern India. And they've made the depiction of this figure a lot whiter, a lot fatter, and a lot more. I mean, if you listen to the 80s argument, a lot more American. I don't know about that. But this idea that it's been co-opted, this is an imposition on what should be, a ruler of this region who looked like us, and somehow they've whitewashed it. That, I think that is an interesting inquiry. And they're not the first people to raise that.
Yeah. It's also not what they're bringing up, though.
It is not what they're bringing up.
The only thing they're addressing is his belly size.
Exactly.
I mean, I already said this, but I would love to maybe just go down a little research hole to see if there actually is something to this 80s thing. Because I love the idea of like a cocaine fueled like 80s boardroom of like make him fatter. Like, no, just make him round.
Wait 20 minutes, I'll get into it with you.
I mean, that's our Santa, right?
Yeah.
Saint Nicholas was a tall, thin, bearded German guy until our Coca-Cola campaign in the 1930s?
The 20s or 30s,
Yeah.
But wasn't he conflated with some pagan figure? Like, isn't that how we get what we know as Santa Claus?
It is, but the fatness is actually not part of that tradition. As
Not
far as
part
I
of it
know,
either.
that's an American injection from
That's
Coke.
the cocaine in the Coke fuel.
To make Coca-Cola's
20s.
a symbol of prosperity.
Right.
In the 1920s, to be rich meant to be round.
Well, also fat and jolly. He was a jolly old soul, says the poem.
Exactly.
I don't know if we have any listeners in India. I would love if you do, and you have context, especially for the 80s thing. I'm really locked into that one line of this article. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And I do think we have a number of overseas listeners. I think the language, but we've gotten requests to translate the podcast, but that's a tough thing to do with overlapping dialogue. Anyway.
Luckily, we are in India, so our next news story is not too far away. So everybody on board the Eagle. Fat Watch 2025.
Oh, I'm not wearing a seatbelt.
Just hold on to some pin feathers. Fat Watch today takes us to Japan.
Ah, yes.
In a story from the AP News, where we go into how Japanese women are struggling to find a place in the Japanese sumo world. This has always been interesting to me. So the article doesn't really go into it all that much as to why women are being blocked, but
Come on. That's kind of obvious.
They talk about the very rigid gender roles in Japan.
that's just pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's just traditional that it's a men's. It's more than a sport. It's a men's tradition.
So
Bordering on religion,
They're basically not letting women into the ring because they don't let women into the ring. And that's the reason why.
Yeah.
But that legacy is finally seeing some real resistance. A stable of over 600 female wrestlers called Rikishi are making massive strides in Japan and starting to get real notice there. Airi Hisano says, I want sumo to become an Olympic sport with no gender distinction.
By the way, it should be mentioned that Japanese sumo has no weight distinctions,
Yeah, that's right.
unlike American sumo.
Okay, interesting. So
In American
the whole
sumo, there are weight
middleweight,
classes.
world class.
Yeah, that's
okay.
outside Japan. In Japan, it's like you're a sumo wrestler. End of story.
Airi Hasano is the sole member of the women's sumo group in her area, which I just kind of love. And I love that her coach is just like very dedicated to helping her when she's just like, she's the only one. I loved hearing all the different perspectives and like how all these different women find community before going to the large groups. And by the end of this, I'm like, I want an anime of this. And I would watch the shit out of this.
It would be good.
Because there's so much going on. There's so much stuff with talking about the body image And also one of the veteran broadcast commentators, who's the club manager of one of the women's sumo groups, says it could spark real change, not just in sports, but across Japanese society.
The idea that you're going to break into something that has such a long held tradition to it. Because like, if you think about like the United States, like nothing traditional we have is more than a couple hundred years old. Like, and how much of those traditions actually go back that far? Not a whole lot.
Think about how hard we'll fight to hold on to 100-year-old tradition.
Yeah.
Oh, please, a 30-year-old tradition.
30-year-old
So like
tradition.
something that's been around for as long as sumo, like this is bold. These are big steps. And there's one quote at the end of this which I thought was fascinating. Shiho Suzuki said, "In Japan, slim is often equated with beautiful, but for performance and health, thin isn't everything. A strong, healthy body with some weight on it is attractive too." Which, going from reading the article, the Indian article, just like doing the due diligence for the podcast, going from that, I was just like, oh my God. Like,
Well, and
dragged
did you
to the
see
mire.
the statistic that 20% of the Japanese women are underweight?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
exactly. In their 20s and 30s. So like, it's just like, that's what Fat Watch is for.
Yeah.
Like we need the counterbalance. We need somebody saying something positive.
Then they talk about kind of the rituals and the procedure, and they talk about the meal they eat.
Oh, yeah.
And just the description of it, I was like, oh my God, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
Because it is,
What do they eat,
a
Trevor?
typical meal consists of pork in a tangy sauce, yes, vegetables, white rice, and candied sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I want to sit down and be like, hey ladies, let's
nosh.
eat, let's nosh, and then we're gonna
Dish.
train, and I'm gonna get fucking the shit slapped out of me. It's just such a great article and a little like slice of life and hope.
And just on a personal note, mentioned on the show before, I studied at UCLA sumo wrestling for a year, like a little bit. And there were lots of women there training in sumo because it was one of the few places they could in the US, right? So speaking as somebody who has had his ass handed to him by the US heavyweight female champion many years ago, and I think it was a world lightweight champion, who just threw me around like I was a light sacked lunch, just tossing me. I think she came from an Aikido background. But the skill level that these people have is not appreciated by Americans.
No,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there is a skill to this.
What do you mean, Don? They're fat. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And the end of this is, I think, really cool. It's just underscoring what I said earlier, but Rikishi are not trying to lose weight. Kusada seeks weight for another goal. I want, she says, to become a world champion.
I wanted to. I love this.
I think that's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
We have been talking a lot about bodies and bodies being perceived by society. And we have been telling you should watch The Body Electric because we're about to discuss that. So in The Body Electric, it is a bold dive into LGBTQ plus body image. Producer, director, and feature in the documentary, Nick Demos explores steroid use, plastic surgery, and the AIDS crisis while confronting his body dysmorphia. The documentary features Leslie Jordan, Judy Gold, Bruce Valanche, and so many others.
Huge cast.
It is
really
an
great.
amazing cast. It is, I don't know, such an interesting look at all of these different issues. Let's just like dive on into discussing this.
So this was made in 2017, but it is focused on primarily on interviewing people about their experiences through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And so a lot of it is like retrospective interviews and looking back on like how body image affected all of the decisions, both on a personal level and in the culture of those eras, and then
But
how
also
it carries
still today.
Yeah, I was going to say how it carries through to now as well, and how in many ways it hasn't changed at all. And I think it's fascinating because I think it came out in 2017. I think the interviews were done well before that, because a lot of the people talk as though Trump wasn't president yet.
Well, but also Trump, even in 2017, Trump was just this disorganized idiot. There wasn't the concentrated beatdown that he became now.
Well, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the change in how people spoke to each other once Trump kind of came.
No, I see that.
There's such a clear divide in how, like, online discourse was never great, but it changed substantially. Like when the president is talking on Twitter primarily, and then what he's saying is insane, everything changes. And part of that feels like the cultural significance of those earlier decades was all in person, right?
Yeah.
And now so much of it carries over to online.
Yeah, true.
And I feel like some of the interviews really talk about how things, I think, have stayed the same, but also maybe gotten better in some ways. And I don't know that that's true now in 2025.
Well, yeah, it was. You can definitely feel these interviews were conducted during an Obama presidency.
Yeah, that's how it felt.
That's how it feels.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's
You're
a
right,
flaw.
now that you mention it.
I don't think that's a flaw at all. Maybe just because I'm so much older and I think of Trump differently. I don't think of, I do see the ebb and flow of these things. It is very dark times now, but we've had dark times before. This is sort of drifting off topic, but what was so important for me about the documentary is, in fact, that historicity in talking about, like Trevor's mentioned the 80s several times now. And yeah, everything changed in the 80s. Everything. When you go from the 70s to the 80s, so much. And we could get into why, but that's a different show.
I feel like we're still paying the tab for
we
the
are
80s
absolutely
today.
still paying the tax on the 80s. It's horrendous.
What do you mean? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened in the 80s is a lot of what you just cited about Obama going out and Trump coming in. In the 80s, it was Reagan coming in and deregulation. But more than that, culturally, there were cultural values that shifted in the 80s. And one of those things was bigger is better. And you got bodybuilding on the rise. But as the documentary talks about, bodybuilding was also a response to the AIDS crisis and not wanting to look sick. And what people don't realize is that a lot of the steroids that were used and are being used were originally cancer drugs to be used as anti-wasting drugs. Things like DECA. I'm not even talking about testosterone, which is like run of the mill. They knew about testosterone from the 40s. But a lot of the basic building blocks of steroid use in bodybuilding came out of trying to make people feel better and be better and add body mass because they were dying of cancer or some other disease. So that was the original pharmaceutical use for anabolic steroids. And then the DEA got involved in bodybuilding and all this, and it sort of went off the rails.
And one of the things the movie goes into, just to give people the background on it, one of the reasons why it's so impactful in the gay community is because of the AIDS crisis.
Yes.
When the AIDS crisis hit, one of the side effects of the disease is massive wasting.
Yeah.
So there was sort of a movement in the gay community that by projecting health by the means that they had at their control, bodybuilding, for example, promoting a healthy, youthful appearance was one of the few ways that you could try and advertise, I am healthy and safe to be around.
And in the straight community, bodybuilding was all the rage. It just took off. It was also the era in fast food of supersizing, right? That is when McDonald's and the other fast food companies invented the idea of like, if we increase the size, we can charge twice as much and it only costs us a few more pennies. If we double the size of your fries, that's very little cost difference for McDonald's, but it's a huge profit difference because we can charge you so much more. And everybody started doing it. And portions ballooned. The Europeans would always make fun of us about like, that's ridiculous. You go to Europe and like the portions were like human sized. And, I would warn European visitors when they would come over. I remember one woman from Spain, she came over and I said, the food is like going to be really big. This is her first night here. We took her out to dinner and she says, oh yeah, I know. And the plate landed and she was like afraid of it. It would be like if someone set down a buffet in front of you.
So Michael, I was curious about what you thought as a filmmaker of, or I guess, the order of operations of how they investigated things. Because by the time they got to the AIDS crisis and kind of exploring that, I was thinking it would have been interesting if they had done things chronologically instead of kind of exploring these issues.
I think it was probably a smart move because just from a viewer experience, if you walk in the door and say
like,
AIDS, you gotta. So the way I would approach it and the way that I think they approached it was you have to get to know the characters first. Even though they're real people and these are real stories and facts and all that, there's still characters in a movie that you have to identify with. And so I would posit it is better to start with here's who we're following, here's who we want you to know, and then bring you into more increasingly serious issues that they're dealing with. So you have a kind of rise in the dramatic tension. And I think that was probably the right way to do it.
Yeah. The way the movie is structured, and I really appreciated this, it is not meant to be a documentary in the sense like, look at this era. It is not about that. Or even look at this phenomenon. It is extremely personal through the eyes of Nick Damos. And what I love about it, if y'all know the musical Company, it actually is very much structured like Sondheim's Company, because we begin with, thank you all for coming to my birthday party, my 40th birthday party. And it is a reckoning of what does it mean for a gay man to turn 40 in 2015, 16, 17. So that's where the characters are coming from. They're coming from the guest list. And then we depart from the party and we do all these investigations back into the past, back into other cultures. You know, what if you're trans? What if you're trans and Latino? What if you're just going all over the place? And where do we come home to? We come home to him blowing out the candles on the cake. And there's a big 40 candle.
Yeah, I think there's a good arc there. And I think one of the reasons why they were able to get really powerful interviews with people is because you're talking about these incredibly personal subjects. In some cases, it's, you know, having to remember living through the AIDS crisis and watching all of your friends die. In other cases, it's talking about sexual abuse and other things that affect body image. And like, they're really, really intensely personal stories. And to ask people to share about that stuff on camera, it's a big ask. And so Nick made the choice to make himself a character and to be in it and to talk about his own issues in the interviews, that he's running the interviews himself on camera. He's not behind the camera. He is literally in the scene with the people they're talking to, talking about them, but also sharing his own stories and being incredibly vulnerable as a way of getting even deeper to the heart of issues that might not otherwise come up without like really incredible documentary interviewing technique. Like he does it through sharing authentically himself.
Right, because it's not this third person documentary look at the Civil War. It's what is happening to us. It's very much about us, which I really appreciate. And as someone who lived through all those eras, I was so moved. There were many points where I was like, you know, teary. I wouldn't say bawling. I would say teary. And not out of nostalgia, but out of, yes, that's what it was like. That recognition when someone gets you, when someone says, yes, that's exactly what it was like for me. That was incredibly moving for me.
One of the things I thought was very interesting watching it as a whole was that it's the first time I've watched a piece that kind of was diving into what a subculture might do to its own bodies, right? When they feel like no one's listening and they have no power in the world. So the trans woman they were interviewing, this, I don't recall her name. Raji. I have heard of this woman many times, right? I have watched her story parodied on the show Pose.
Oh, God.
That turned the experience into a bit of a joke. A tragic joke, but a joke. But this is a woman who was working so hard to try and achieve the body she would feel comfortable in. She allowed a stranger to inject substances into her that she asked the right questions for, but was lied to, and had, what was it, industrial grade silicone mixed with
crazy glue.
I've heard this story mocked so many times the course of my lifetime. I've never heard her tell her side of it.
And she acknowledges that in passing. Like, I know you think, what a dumb bitch, but she's like, this is why, this is how. I did ask those questions.
Yeah, and she was lied to. Like, and she was told this is medical grade, and it wasn't.
And I feel like they don't necessarily draw a direct analogy in it to the movie, but these guys using steroids. Right? It's the same story. It's they're trying to achieve the body that they feel comfortable in. Well, so they're putting things into it, you know, that they're being assured is safe by the people giving it to them, but they don't know.
Exactly. And it's because it's illegal. It is the same mirror that, you know, in the same sense that these drugs would be fine if they were medically supervised, but they're illegal, so you got to take your chances. Or this treatment for transitioning would be safer, but it's illegal.
And one of the things that really concerned me watching it is hearing the story from Raji, right? As they make trans medication illegal across the United States.
Absolutely.
We're going to have so many more Rajis in the next 20 years. And it all comes back to this moment.
It all comes back to this moment. And there's something that is also resonant between the bodybuilders and the trans woman story is that it's not just to feel comfortable. It is a need.
Yeah.
And in the case of the bodybuilders, there is often like, if I am going to be worth anything in the community that I'm supposed to belong to, I need to achieve this.
Okay, I need to ask a question because not being trans and not being a bodybuilder, this feels like dicey territory to like equate the two. Like the way she describes the trans experience, which granted, there are varying trans experiences. Not every trans person feels like they have to transition. Like there's different ways to exist as a trans person. But if that is what you want, and the way she describes it, it's a matter of identity. It's a matter of recognizing who you are, like seeing yourself in yourself. Is that how it works for a bodybuilder? That you don't recognize your being unless you create the body that you are inside.
I do admit, like, the parallel breaks down rather quickly. However, what I do think is consonant with both is that it is definitely about a kind of identity. I think it is different. I think the nature of not fitting in your body is different for bodybuilders who are trying to get to something and not be in their body. That is different, but also has whiffs of the same thing. But I think the other thing, too, that is so important for me and why I brought it up at all is the desperation, regardless of whether you respect that desperation, whether you think, well, you know, it counts in one instance, but it doesn't count in the other. It's the drive of I would do anything if I could be that. One of the statistics they put on the screen is that in surveys, gay men would give up years of their life to have the perfect body.
Up to like a decade
of
your
life.
If you could have it right
if
now.
you could have the body that you dreamed of right now for the rest of your life, as many as 10 years. I can't even wrap my head around
And to
that.
me, it's like, well, duh, of course.
I
To me, that's just so blatantly obvious. Of course people would say that.
I would say that the movie itself does try to draw the connection between the two experiences when they're interviewing the bodybuilder that I think was implied he was a porn star, but I didn't recognize him. There was a shot of him on his set where I was like, I think that's a porn set, but where he was describing being a very skinny kid that was being, put upon by people, and the way he lived in that body, he was something he couldn't do.
Yes, and part of that is the effeminacy, being accused as a kid of being effeminate and being teased and bullied. And believe me, that was a whole lot different before than now. I'm not saying it doesn't happen now. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because of the internet and because of social media, one is so much more aware of other communities than one might fit in. Whereas the thing that Leslie Jordan is talking about is like, he thought he was the only homosexual in the universe.
Right.
Like, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting and so powerful to see all of these different interviews, because almost all of them talk about their experience as a child, the first times their bodies were made to be wrong by adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how they carry that, and other experiences, in adolescence. Nick talking about his theater professor pointing at his stomach and saying, you need to lose 5 pounds, and how that has just stuck with him, and how he is perpetually trying to lose that 5 pounds.
Yeah.
And his whole life became about
the same
losing
5
that.
pounds I've been trying to lose my entire life.
Yeah. His whole life became about that.
There was discussion of fatness, but not a lot, except for, does anyone remember the guy's name who kind of talked about weight loss and then having the skin removal surgery?
I remember the story.
And also kind of talking about his mom being white, his dad being black, and not wanting to be perceived as black in dating and everything. And going as far as he's like, I told people I was Native American, and I kind of like did research and really kind of crafted this story
of being Native American.
And not putting up pictures of me with my brothers, because then people would know I was black. But that just tangled with his own body image and being fat and losing weight, but still feeling fat. And just there was just so much. I think that was probably one of the hardest parts of the documentary for me, because he talks about everything he went through and how it's just still not resolved. And it's
and the rejection from both sides, where like in the black communities, he was experiencing a lot of ridicule and rejection for not being black enough, from the white side not looking white enough, and like kind of getting the worst of both worlds. That's one of the fascinating things about the documentary, is how many different angles they come from to show as many different ways as you can.
It's profound,
how body image can just be made wrong by our society.
It's like the most powerful separating factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love about what Trevor pointed to is how that otherness just runs through in so many different currents. And that's kind of what I was talking about before, is that it's not the same, but it rhymes.
Yeah. So, earlier I was talking about what you thought of the kind of the format, how they constructed things. And I was relieved kind of because like when we got to AIDS and the AIDS crisis and just kind of really going down that path and really exploring that, being in that moment, but then also the lasting impact of that, I did like that then they kind of touched back on childhood and looking back on your own bodies. And Judy Gold talking about, seeing pictures of herself in her 20s when she's in her 20s and she's like, I just felt so fat and I thought I was so disgusting. And now I look at those pictures of myself and like, I wasn't fat, I was hot. And like just the importance of, which I've talked about. And like, I have my little aura frame in the picture of there, like looking back at yourself and really kind of like acknowledging that you may have had all these issues, but distance gives you perspective on all of that.
It's body dysmorphia. It's looking at yourself now in the mirror and not actually seeing yourself.
Out of curiosity, is there anyone in this room that looks back at pictures of your younger self and finds yourself less attractive than you are now? Or like, what do you
1,000%.
Okay.
That would be me. And I will also say about that Judy Gold, where she, and that is a well-worn trope of like, you look back at pictures of yourself and you're like, hey, I wasn't that fat. And what is left out of that is that, like in my case, it was like 1970 something, right? In the 1970s, believe me, everybody made sure you knew that you were fucking huge. Everybody was, you didn't make that up. That didn't happen because your mother said a funny thing when you were 5 and now you remembered it and it influenced the rest of your life. You got constant reinforcement on that every time you opened your eyes or listened to anything on the radio or the TV. So it was not some delusion that you suffered under. It was the air you breathed. And it's not until you breathe different air in a different era that you're like, oh, wow. I guess it was really smoggy in Los Angeles back then.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like I was a fat brown kid growing up. The fact that I was brown didn't even occur to me until I was late teens because the fat took up so much space.
Knowing that time to worry about your brownness.
That was, it separated me so much from everyone else. That the racial thing didn't even seem to be a factor.
I think that is also the case for me as a fat kid. I was so separated. I mean, I've said before that if there was someone else in the room, I was being made fun of for being fat. And that was absolutely my school experience. And being that separate, being that much of a freak, any other degree of freakitude, like being nerdy, being into science, being gay. That was like, oh, please, that's nothing.
Yeah, fatness is the noun. Fatness is the noun. Everything else that applies to you is just an adjective.
Well, and it's like people say, like, how could you have gone on? Like a lot of chasers, when I first did the documentary, they were like, wow, that's really brave of you. And it didn't occur to me as brave because in this body, I can do that. I had the thin privilege to do that. I had the privilege, the currency to spend on that. And so it didn't occur to me as brave at all. It occurred to me as something that needed to get done because I'd been on the other side of that.
I loved seeing, Dan and I saw someone we knew in the documentary who popped up in kind of the opening montage of showing all these figures, who is only in it briefly, but Nadav, the therapist, Nadav Anatabi Gruska.
Yeah, we know that.
We met them at New York Pride a couple of years ago and both had like fantastic conversations with them. Like it was, I have often like kind of been like, oh, like, because Nadav isn't really on social media anymore. So I'm like, well, like what's going on with them?
What's happening with them?
So I looked them up and found their practice, and they have all this stuff on their website kind of about like, they do fat affirmative therapy. And then under services, they talk about kind of specialized groups they work with, including like chasers, gainers, and encouragers. And the little blurb says, those attracted to fatness and becoming fat sometimes struggle with deep shame about their attractions. We want to be your guide so that your sexual experiences would be shame-free and super delicious. And I love that. And I love seeing fat affirmative as a therapy thing, because I know so many people that have been looking for therapists. We've talked about, you can kind of find that on Psychology Today, but I've I haven't really seen it as fat affirmative.
Yeah, and I mean, so many people come to me because, I'm not a therapist. I'm at best a coach, but they come to me because there's no place else to discuss fat kink because most therapists aren't very well trained in kink, and they want a shame-free environment by someone they know gets it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the more niche you get, like the more niche your identity is, the more important it is to talk to somebody who gets it.
Yeah.
Is there equivalency to another kink that has the same sort of difficulty coming out, or as like admitting that they experience that kink?
Yeah, something I've long said is that kink, when it's, especially if it's not your kink, other people's kinks exist on a spectrum from, on the one hand, silly and ridiculous to sick and dangerous, and you will put other people's kinks somewhere on that judgment spectrum. Including if you're getting into your own kink, you may have that experience judging yourself. So I wouldn't say there's an equivalent, but I will say that if you do have a kink, you are cousin to anybody else with a kink. You can get it in a way that someone who doesn't have a kink can't get it.
Okay. Well, so Body Electric was an interesting documentary, a little outside of what we normally look at, but I think very beneficial.
I think,
yeah,
but so on brand for us.
Yeah, completely focused on body image. Side note, at the end, they show Nick, it's sort of the hero's arc of him kind of like coming to some degree of acceptance with himself, and he's doing yoga and the poses he's going through. I was watching him like, I can't fucking do that. Holy shit. Like the balance and the control, like incredible. Like you have to admire, I don't know. Like, I wonder if he knows that. That's what I wonder.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Do we have a tip for today? Watch Body Electric.
Watch the Body Electric.
Yeah, really. I was at tears at many points.
Well, since we were talking about body image, I thought one of the things that I might delve into for this one is the thing that causes us the most problem with our body image, the thing that tortures us, the mirror. So mirrors have been around for not as long as you'd think, but reflective surfaces have been around for a very long time. Mirrors and reflective surfaces have been believed to be magical for as long as there have been reflections. Still, reflective pools were thought to reflect the soul back to ancient ancestors. That's what they thought they were seeing in the water. And when our ancient ancestors started mass-producing glass in 300 AD, they thought the polished surfaces could be used to see across space or trap souls. Magic was in the mirror. What was magic that involved mirrors called? Catoptromancy, ceromancy, ornithomancy, or cartomancy?
What's the first one again?
Catoptromancy.
I think it's that one, but I couldn't swear to it. I just think it's not the other three.
I'm going to say ceromancy just because that popped out to me.
I'm going to go with ceromancy too. When I think of like ceremorphosis from D&D, it feels...
That's literally why this one made the list. It was like, this is from Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Okay. Ornithomancy is divination by observing the flights of birds.
Yes.
Cartomancy is divination through cards. Ceromancy is divination from patterns formed by dripping wax into water.
I knew it.
And catoptromancy is magic using mirrors.
Interesting.
Thank you very much.
There's an old superstition that you shouldn't let a baby look into a mirror until they're at least a year old.
It's body image.
What does this superstition say might happen? 1, the baby will not learn to speak. 2, the baby will not learn to walk. 3, the baby will become self-centered and vain. Or 4, the baby will die.
The baby will die just because I feel like it has to be something like bonkers like that.
I think it's the baby will not speak because I think it's some sort of changeling thing.
We've got death and speaking.
I mean, they're the same thing, aren't they, Don? I talk all the time. I'd die if I couldn't talk.
Yeah, I think speaking too.
All right. Well, the correct answer is, in fact, the baby will die.
Oh, my God.
This
It'll
one is
straight up
connected
die.
to a old superstition that the soul isn't fully formed until about a year's worth of life. So that if you're walking by a mirror, your soul might get trapped by a mirror. This is actually the same tradition that has people covering mirrors in houses when people die.
I'm thinking of all those like little baby books that have like the different textures and stuff, and at the end where it has like the piece of foil that's the mirror, and the baby just getting that and be like, just like shriveling up.
Well, that's why it has beneath it, the end.
All right. One of the most famous superstitions in the world about mirrors involves breaking them.
Yes.
Specifically, breaking a mirror will give you 7 years of bad luck. Where do we get this belief from? 1. The early days of theater, where breaking makeup mirrors could cost an actor up to 7 years of reduced pay. 2. The American South, where it was believed evil spirits would be released by the mirror for 7 years. 3. Ancient Rome, where they believed that the body would fully replace itself after 7 years. Or 4. It's not an ancient belief. It's only been around since the 1930s, inspired by a silent film.
I want to go with the film.
We got one for film here.
I'm going to go with the southern one.
It's an ancient Southern belief.
I don't think it's the Southern one. I don't think it's the acting one. Maybe the movie. Yeah, I'll go with the Romans. Why not?
When in doubt, always go with the Romans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Romans believed that the body was replaced over 7 years.
Did they really?
They did. So the curse would be ended when your body was fully replaced.
Interesting. Would it slowly improve over the 7 years? Was it the worst the instant it happened?
I'll have to direct you to a more ancient
Or
historian
is
than
the
I am.
final cell of your body that's still cursed is still cursing your whole
My
body?
God. I think that's a really good question for AI, Michael.
All right. Modern mirrors are made by applying silver to the back of polished glass and can be produced relatively cheaply. Until this process was discovered, mirrors were shockingly expensive and were often symbols of great wealth and power. When was the modern mirror invented? In 1645 by an English surgeon, in 1791 by an Italian painter, in 1835 by a German chemist, or in 1910 by an American farmer.
I feel like it's one of the last. I'm going to go with the German 18.
Yeah, me too.
7.
We got 1835 by a German chemist. We got 2 for that.
I'm going to say the painter.
Well, in fact, it was invented by Justus von Liebig in 1835 by developing a chemical process to apply a thin metallic silver layer to glass.
Yep.
Which all of a sudden brought mirrors into all of our homes and all the joy
Hooray
that comes
for
with
us.
that.
Was he just like laughing evilly? As
This is going to fuck everyone
You
up.
fools.
So, Trevor, if we have a listener that's desperate to smash a mirror and dodge that 7 years of bad luck, where can they write to us to tell us how to do that?
Well, we're on Instagram and Blue Sky. I haven't posted on Blue Sky in a forever. Sorry, guys. As at Big Fat Gay Pod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there, or 5 stars and a review on your preferred podcast platform. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.
Oh, please.
Nailed it. Perfect.
Maybe you're listening, you're looking in the mirror, and you're not a baby, so you're not going to die. You notice something strange, and you're moving, and it just seems like there's something moving in tandem with you, and you're turning around, and it's Michael.
Watch out!